this is Brendan, and today we might have a different selection of music as I draw this picture. And I had some problems with this dude whose name I won't bother mentioning, and he told me that it was totally cool to use his music, which he provides online, without telling you that it's copyrighted, or that he might copyright it sometime. And he was forced, apparently, to he was forced to sell. They must have held a gun to his head. He was forced to sell his songs because of all the copyright problems he was having. Mind you, he provides his soundtracks freely available, which doesn't mean free of price, of course, because we're just ignorant people who don't understand that. Despite the fact that it's common for that misunderstanding to arise. I'm drawing some dwarves, by the way. They're fighting a dragon, but I just have to talk about this guy. Excuse me, I have a little bit of cold today. Despite the fact that your average person, of course, would never know the difference between free as in free software and free as in financially free. I happen to know this because I work in software. But there's if you're smart enough to know that, then you're also smart enough to know that people don't know that. People don't think like this. People say, well, if it's free, it's free. What's the difference? What do you mean? Like, free as in beer, right? This is what they say. Free as in beer means if someone gives you a free beer, then you say, oh, well, I know exactly what that means. It means I don't have to pay for the beer, right? But when it comes to software, when they say free software, such as, well, the software I'm using right now, it's called GIMP, and you can download and use the software for free, but it doesn't mean that you just take it as yours and then you can resell it and redistribute it and stuff like that. There's rules and guidelines. You can redistribute it, but there's some rules you have to follow, and that's all really. So ostensibly, I would argue that free does mean free, the same as it does. I have this argument with people, and I know there's a point to be made. I get the point. But what we have to understand is that you can't just take it and then own it. There's licensing involved. I think that's the main point that people are usually trying to get across when it comes to free software and free music. It might be free to listen to or free to use at this particular point in time, but it doesn't mean you own it. However, that being said, a license is a license, and if you give somebody the right, which I was given, the right to use the music, and then you sell it, I can't help finding there's something wrong with that, because now I'm getting copyright claim issues with this. And we're not talking about Van Halen here, by the way, so he was a little insulted when I told him that his sounds were quite simple. At the time when I found his little profile on freesound.org, which I believe is all he had at the time, he didn't have much going on. He had 2 or 3 simple songs, and the only reason I used them is because they were completed tracks, and I have to give them credit. They're professionally done. I wouldn't use them if they sucked, or they don't suck. It's good, but it's not Van Halen. It's not Rolling Stones, or the Stones, or whatever. Excuse me. And I don't even like. I'm not a Van Halen fan, but a Van Halen fan. Is that a tongue twister? No. So I'm not even a fan. It's like the point is, it's not some big production kind of music. It's just some stuff that this dude made with it clearly seems to be just digital. So why the big deal? Then the big deal was that he made it incredibly difficult for me. He gave me a very uncomfortable situation now, and so I had an argument with him about that. And he doesn't care. Not only does he not care, but he started to insult me and tell me that I'm being childish or something like this, and like as if I were some kind of prima donna who doesn't appreciate where things come from, and just to say that what's the word? Self-entitled kind of person. And then he proceeded to use foul language with me even, and told me he wasn't even reading what I was saying. It was very well, at least for him, it was dramatic. I can only assume he's doing drugs. And good for him if he has the money to go around raising copyright claims and all the free time in the world to do stuff like that. He must have a substantial amount of free time, or maybe his parents take care of him. Maybe he's on medicinal marijuana. I don't know. But yeah, good for you, buddy, that you really ruined 2 years worth of work now that I'm going to have to constantly worry about copyright claims. So what I'm going to do now, thank God, thank you Google, the Google gods again have solved this problem. I won't have to worry about him ever again. I'll never speak with him again. I won't say his name because even bad publicity is good publicity sometimes, so I won't say his name. You're welcome to look him up, only if you want to send him a bad message, of course, not a good one. And yeah, quick pause right here. I got to get a drink of water. Okay, and so the point I was getting at is that the Google gods, as I call them, are saving me again because they have provided a ton of free stuff, free music tracks that you can use, and so I'll be using those. You can download them even to incorporate them into your videos and stuff, and they guarantee that they are royalty free, copyright free, or they might not be just free. Again, going back to the difference between free as in beer or free to use, they might not be 100% free. You can't just claim them as your own, but they are royalty free, I believe is the thing. I don't have to pay anyone to use them, and they're free to use. So that's the important thing that I care about. I just and as I said to myself, I've been known to be a relatively talented person with music myself. I don't. Maybe I should take back using the word musician, because I don't know. Let's save the word musician for people who actually do it for a living, and I don't. I just play guitar very well, and I could easily whip up a few riffs which would suit my purposes. I just need a little bit of noise for when the video starts and stuff like that. And so yeah, but that's all I wanted, and I thought this website freesound.org would make that possible. I followed all the rules, by the way. I communicated with him and all this stuff, and he won't he won't take it that he made a mistake. I didn't want anything from him. I don't need an apology. I don't want him to go through some trouble. It would have been nice if he acknowledged the fact that in a manner of speaking we had an agreement. I had spoken with him. It wasn't just that I downloaded his song and then came back complaining later. And I even helped him. That's the part that kind of really irritated me. I actually helped him. One time somebody was using his sound, one of his songs, and didn't give him any credit. And I realized that because, well, they had given me a copyright claim. And I said, well, how could you be giving me a copyright claim? I know the guy who made this song, and it's not you. And so I contacted him and told him about it, and he posted it on, I don't know why, but he posted it. I should have noticed the signs earlier that something was going to go wrong. He posted it on Imager, however you call it. Like, why would you post it there? I guess they do have a lot of people who know things there. So, and he did get some responses. So, I don't know. Maybe that's fair play. But yeah, he did that. And I did that for him, and I've been putting his name in all of my videos and the credits and everywhere I go to make sure that I am compensating him for the free use. And that's all he asked for, and that's all I did. But now he doesn't want to own up, and this is the only part that really bothers me. He won't own up that he basically broke an agreement without telling me. If he had sent me a message or sent a message to all the people using his sounds who he knows, because they do tell him on his boards and stuff, then he he could have saved us all a lot of grief. He could have just said, hey guys, I'm going to be selling these songs or selling them through this entity so that it'll help me with the copyright issues I'm having, and I would have been fine because I would have been prepared to defend myself in these cases. And it's not a big deal. It's not like I'm making $1 million here off these videos. It's like I'm lucky to get anything. But I don't want to have to deal with these claims, because each one of these videos for me is a lot of work, and I consider it to be an investment. in my future, because I can keep them up here. I can put them on YouTube, put them on Vimeo. They do have value to them. I don't want to have to take them down or be annoyed with any kind of copyright disputes, which, I mean, aside from, forget about the money even, it just doesn't make me look like an honest person. I don't want to have that type of thing happen. And I was an honest person, did everything I should. Oh well. Going on and on and on. Yeah. And so you can see why the argument got argumenty. It went on and on like that. And so now it's over. Done with him. I'll use Google sounds that they provide. And that's about it. So as you see, I just flipped the canvas. What I'm doing here is, you saw, if you went back to the beginning of the video, the point that I was in this was still at a sketchy kind of point. And now I'm trying to build in, I want it to have more layer, more depth, and stuff like this. So these are the, they're in a cave, and there's these, there's this dragon down here, which they call the forgotten beasts that come up in this game sometimes. And so I'm trying to give this a little bit more depth and perspective because it felt kind of flat. And there's definitely something wrong with these dwarves here. Their anatomy or foreshortening or something just isn't working. Could it just be something as simple as his legs should be longer? Yeah, that helped a little. Yeah, that did help a little. So yeah, there's a lot to work on here. And the wind, well, it's a windy, they call it a chasm when you're underground, like a shaft. You can still have wind down there. It'll blow through the caves, and there's, of course, there's a door. If you go up to higher levels, they have stairs and stuff, which eventually goes out to a door. So the wind could be blowing from outside to inside and outside. So even down in these depths, there could be wind. Plus, this giant monster just showed up, so maybe he's blowing some wind around. You got to have wind when monsters show up, or else it's just not dramatic. And I flipped the canvas to work on my symmetry here. It's not to say that everything needs to be symmetrical. These are random natural formations in a cave, but I have a tendency to make things very off balance. So it's just a matter of being a bit more balanced, and it helps a lot to flip the canvas around a bit like that. It'll help. So now I'm at a point, I feel like I got some of that depth I was looking for, and I have enough characters going on. I was going over my illustration checklist, which is on my DeviantArt account, and it's right here. I have a lot of windows open, so maybe I should close some of these. As you can see, I'm on Reddit and stuff. And what we have here is a checklist, my illustration checklist, which I made in 2015. I might need to update, but it's still pretty sturdy. Start off by choosing a subject matter. I want to turn this into an illustration, actually. Choose a subject matter, do some research on stuff, planning, right? And then it's just a step-by-step thing, and I'm even referring to that myself sometimes because I'll forget a step or two along the way sometimes. Such as, well, I probably should have done some thumbnails. This something I'm really, really guilty of, is skipping a thumbnail phase, and that's really bad. So let me add a layer here. Add a layer, and we'll add two layers. So on this layer, I'm going to put in a gray color all the way and fill the whole selection and bring it down a little bit, so that's a little bit grayed out. And now on another layer, I want to go back in with something like black, and this is something that I definitely should have done in the very, very beginning, and you should probably do it with every illustration, is to, I'll make a whole nother video about this, I think, and it's to make, I have to change this dynamics off, okay, and it's to make some, not just the perspective lines as I often do, you can get a feeling of perspective by going like this, and that would be wrong right there. So the the horizon will be back here. But in addition to perspective, is to have some kind of space. Actually, I literally am forgetting the word at the moment, but it's the separation of space in the drawing. So if you were to just give the drawing some overall shape, what would it be? And so one thing might be there could be a circle or an oval here, right? And I'll make a quick example of this, what I'm doing here. We could see a V for this, you know, the cave has kind of a V. It's sort of like a little valley going on right there where this dragon's going to be coming out. There's definitely a V of perspective going off into the distance where the horizon, you know, should be about this, a little bit lower, maybe down here. And then, you know, you can start to get random after that. But you should have some kind of focal point. And definitely in this case, focal point is going to be this. And let's just say, for example, what if I did decide to go with something like that, a circular kind of feel. So let me get out a circle tool here. And we'll stretch it out like this. No, not that. This. All right, yeah. And make sort of an oval right there. And then we can use the select tool and I know edit. Go into the edit dialog. Is it edit? Yeah, stroke selection. I'll just do that. So I put that there. There's a kind of an oval, and we'll bring that down below the layer I was working on and hide this this fog layer. Now you can see it there. So what is the point of that oval right there? Well, it's a nice perfect shape in the middle that your eyes can focus on, and people like perfect shapes. It's pleasing to the eye. So I'm not saying that we have to draw him in a perfect oval, but what if we were to use that perfect oval to do something with him? So for example, maybe I could bring out his wings into that perfect oval kind of thing, like this. Go down here like that. And this is, you know, this could be a very crude example of how to do this. But maybe his wings just come out a little bit like that in here. And there's a lot of stuff I have to remove in order to make this work. So now your eyes will be given this pleasing, perfect form to use to help you, you know, adjust. I don't know if adjust is the right word. But you'll probably catch my drift by the time I'm done. So I have to erase a lot of stuff here. Hold on. Yeah. So we're using this kind of perfect oval shape there for his wings, which now I need to, where's the color? Right. This color, fill in here on a new layer. There's a lot of other stuff I did in this this illustration that I think is very interesting. And right on this layer I need to erase some of this glow effect. Okay. Back to the color on this layer. So there you can see I just fill in this area here, and you see now his wings are kind of filling in that space there. And you know, it just needs to be redrawn a bit since I completely changed the shape of it, obviously. But the point with this is that if you can understand how I used, I incorporated a perfect shape to help work in with the painting, it might end up being a little bit more pleasing to the eye. And I'm not going to keep all of it like this. Get back to the, I want to hide that circle now. Right. Is this the layer? No. Yeah, that's the layer. Okay. Let me draw a little bit more of that here and there. Okay. And then I can hide the circle. Okay. So now you can see I'm going to draw some more lines here, which seemingly might just be, you know, some indentations on the ground or something. And you might not realize it. It'll be kind of like a secret that only you and I know. But the people looking at this, they might not realize it at first, but there's kind of that perfect oval feeling going on in that area. And that just, it brings something to the illustration. It makes it easier on the eyes. Now, when I say this, and it might seem like I'm giving a crude example, but I am. I'm doing this like, you know, just off the cuff here, randomly as I go. But you can look up books by Andrew Loomis, who is well, he was, I guess, very famous a very well-known illustrator. I don't know what works he did, but you can see him all over. He has all kinds of drawing books. He's very, very talented and a little dated. You know, it's not like your modern Marvel artist or anything. He goes back a few years. I'm not sure if he's still around or not, but his books are really good, and he covers a lot of this in his illustration. And excuse me, there's a very commonly known tool, a designer's tool, is to start off with shapes like that and lines and things to just make everything kind of fit into simple shapes. So by the time it's all said and done, you can completely ignore all of those original shapes you made, and you can move on to make different things. But it's just more pleasing to the eye to have things fit into certain zones like that. And now if you use that, if you just keep that in mind and start looking at other illustrations, you'll see it come through, and you'll know that a lot of artists and illustrators, they use this type of technique just to make everything more pleasing to the eye. You'll see circles and squares. Sorry, I have to get a sip of water. All these different things. Just a moment. Yeah, sorry about that. You'll see circles and squares and stuff. And I'd love to bring up some other illustrations right now and make some examples of that. But just, you know, keep your eye out. You'll see it. And they use it in design too for like, I don't know, like Nike, or, you know, whatever, logos and stuff like that. A little bit more pleasing to the eye to use some perfect shapes. And I could even make like a triangle here to try and show more of the perspective. For example, this lake, that's this area here, it's a little bluish, that's supposed to be a lake. I could bring more feeling of perspective into this area by trying to maybe shape the lake out into more of a triangle so you can feel it. But I like random things as well, so I let it go. And other than that, as you can see from the beginning of this video, aside from complaining about music problems, I'm just trying to fill in some of the space and the depth so that you want to be able to feel the difference between this area here, for example. You know, let me make a bigger brush from like here to there. You want to be able to feel all the little details. And in order to do that, sometimes it's helpful to just fill in a lot of details. You know, just think about what would happen from here to there. There's going to be a little bit of grass. There's going to be, you know, I had some of these stalactites and stalagmites and stuff. Just filling in the space and keeping in mind perspective while you're doing it, so things get smaller as they get further away. Sometimes it might be bigger with, for example, these mushrooms. I made one of the mushrooms in the background there as big as this one. That's not to say that it's not further away. It's because, well, that must be a really, really big mushroom back there, right? So you can have that type of thing. But for the most part, the mushrooms in the background there, the ones in the foreground are bigger than the ones in the background. Those are mushrooms, by the way, in case you didn't know, or they will they will be mushrooms. Might not look like mushrooms now, because they have glowing mushrooms down in these caves. Okay, so if you can't make this out, this is going to be an angry dwarf who's, well, not angry, but a battle-ready. Let's call him a battle-ready dwarf. Here's his nose, his eyes. This is shape of a helmet. The dwarves are master metalsmiths, and so, you know, that's what we'll do. I had a request from a guy online. He's a Dwarf Fortress player, and he's making he's making some videos. And see, now here's somebody who I will share their content, because he's, you know, nice, friendly guy, and don't have any qualms with him. But I'll give you a link, maybe not in the comments of this video, but maybe in the next one. To he's making some videos of actually playing the game Dwarf Fortress. So those of you who are just watching this and don't understand the game, they're just looking at the art and stuff, you can watch some of his video. And he has an ambition in his video, which I'd like, which I do like, is to make it a little bit faster than some of the other Dwarf Fortress Let's Play. There's a lot of Let's Play Dwarf Fortress out there, but they can be boring, which might be why I didn't recommend any of them previously, because it's just hard to follow, really. And it's not to blame the people making the videos. It's really a complicated game. So anyway, so there he's pointing over there. Maybe you can make out a bit of his face here. And again, you see I use circles, just like when you're building anatomy, going back to that, the circles and shapes and things. When you're building anatomy for anybody, for like humans or dwarves or any characters, we usually start off with circles and move on to like different boxes and lines, and then you can slowly build in the more realistic details and little flaws that everyone has. Nobody has perfectly round eyes or perfectly teardrop eyes or anything. And yeah, his mouth should be screaming here. So just want to quickly try and make this look a little bit more anthropomorphic, which means human-like. I use that word because he's technically not even human, right? He's a dwarf, but make it look a little bit more like a human. See his face there. He has a beard, but he's still screaming. So I should see his teeth in here. They're white. Maybe his tongue has come down there. And more teeth here. Looks a little bit like a mouth. Okay. Yeah, so there you can start to feel out. It looks like a kind of a person or a dwarf. And yeah, that's that in a nutshell. What was I just saying about that? Oh yeah, so yeah, but if you want to watch his video, I'll give you a link. It is kind of fun to watch if you can catch the gist of what they're doing. This other color layer is working on here. I just want to fill this out real quick. So I'm going to end this video right about here. Sorry if I forgot to say something. I always do that. But I'll put up notes in the video because now I'm doing that nowadays. You might have noticed. I make notes. So if I forgot something, I can just write it like in the credits or something. I put it in the comments. And that's that for now, covering a bunch of illustration tips. I don't think this is going to be any kind of masterpiece, just something to work on in between comic book pages. I'm writing the script for the next book now, so hopefully before the end of the year we'll have book 2 100% complete. Book chapter 1 was very successful. I have up to 5,000 views on it. A lot of people enjoyed that, and some criticism that it was too wordy, but I was very, very happy that at least I did get some credit for the effort I put in. People are clearly sharing it because the numbers of views just keeps going up every day. People are sharing it, and it goes to show that with a lot of hard work, try and make a good finished product and make it professional, do all the little things like a cover and a title page, draw people in, make a good image, and people will follow it. It's fun. So not making $1 million or anything off it, but some place to start. And that's about it. So for today, we'll wrap this up right here. That's that. A lot of coloring to do. In the next video, maybe I'll do a time lapse of me finishing this, because I think that would be a good place to do it. I wish I had time lapse from the beginning, but I always think of that and then I get distracted and I don't. Oh well. Alright, see you next time. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.